Eric Dyer and Clement Longley. Emerson Royal and Ben Davis will provide the width, with Pierre-Emile Højbjerg returning from a Champions League suspension in midweek to partner Oliver Skipp at the expense of Pape Sarr, who drops down to the bench. Dejan Kulusevski and Richarlison in support of Harry Kane. Son begins this one amongst the Spurs subs, along with Brandon Austin, the goalkeeper, along with Davinson Sanchez, Ivan Perisic, Arnaud Danjuma, Pedro Porro, the deadline day signing, Japhet Tanganga, Lucas Moura, and the aforementioned Pape Sarr. For West Ham, they have Lucas Fabianski in goal. It's a back three of Thilo Kehrer, Nayef Aguerd, and Angelo Ogbonna. Vladimir Coufal and Emerson, the wing-backs. Thomas Soucek and Declan Rice in the heart of midfield. Flynn Downs and Jared Bowen, this season's top scorer, in support of Mikel Antonio. Soucek and Downs in for the injured Lucas Paquetá. And for Syed Benrahma, who begins on the bench from the last league game, the draw against Chelsea 8 days ago. Also amongst the substitutes, notably recovering from a knee injury to take his place in the matchday squad, is Gianluca Scamacca. Alphonse Areola is fit again as well. He too is on the bench with Ben Johnson, Aaron Creswell, Pablo Fornals, Manuel Lanzini, Danny Ings, Benrahma and Kalen Casey, hoping potentially for a debut. Young centre-back who's risen through the Hammers ranks. As the teams walked out, Harry Kane just glanced to his left and saw a giant tifo spelling Harry. The Spurs fans saluting their all-time record scorer. Jimmy Greaves' mark was broken the last time that Spurs were here, a fortnight ago. It was the only goal in their victory against the champions Manchester City. Since then, though, they've conceded 4 in losing at Leicester in the Premier League and were beaten by a 0-0 at San Siro on Tuesday night against AC Milan in the first leg of their Champions League round of 16 tie. So we're almost set for the start then, back on home soil for Spurs, as both sets of players and the officials all take the knee to underline the message that there is no room for racism. And we're off and underway, both sides in their traditional colours. Spurs in the famous white shirts, blue shorts and white socks. West Ham in the claret and blue. Almost immediately off on the front foot before the intervention of referee Michael Oliver, who whistles for handball, gives the free kick. And we have what should be a fiercely fought contest. I think when these two teams, Chris Perry, get together, that is a given. It's about who can find that little bit of quality maybe to win it.
It is, absolutely. You know, both teams in the way that they've set up look like they're going to try and match each other up and make it difficult for the other one to play. But this is a real derby, this one. As I said, this is West Ham's cup final every season. These are the two games that West Ham look forward to as they're on the attack here.
There's an early sight of goal, which is flushed just wide. Jared Bowen it was who hit it left-footed, whistled just wide. It had come to him in a little bit of space. All started actually from the throw taken by Coufal in towards Thomas Soucek. He cut it back, and Bowen, standing on the D on the edge of the penalty area, was unmarked but couldn't quite find the target.
He hit it really well. Then he sat up beautifully to hit, just sat up at nice height, hit it beautifully with his left foot, but a yard wide of Fraser Forster's post.
Big early chance with just 60 seconds on the clock at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. At Premier League Live is our Twitter address. Love to hear from you throughout the course of today's commentary. Let us know where you're listening to us around the world, where you think this game is going to go, who's going to come out on top. It's Eric Dyer on the ball for Spurs on the edge of his own penalty area. 350th appearance for Spurs today. And he scored on his debut. The first of those was against West Ham back in 2014. He's at the centre of the Spurs defence today. They will look long, and it's comfortably cut out and returned by Ogbonna towards Antonio, who will just take it off the toes of Harry Kane inside the centre circle. Michael Antonio has it here and does have the free kick he was hoping for as well, right under the nose of the referee. The challenge on him from Kulusevski.
Antonio's going to be really important today. Spurs like to sit back. He's going to have to hold the ball up. He's going to have to be really strong. Probably try and play against Eric Dyer, not against Romero.
As previous in this fixture, Mikel Antonio, doesn't he? 4 winning goals against Spurs down the years. As the free kick comes into the danger area, Ogbonna trying to get on the end of it. It was the foot in from Højbjerg as well, who is continuing the appeals, hoping to prevent the concession of the corner kick. But West Ham will have a set-piece opportunity, another set-piece opportunity that followed the free kick. They're claiming an offside against
really offside, wasn't
Ogbonna.
Angelo Ogbonna as the header from Soucek came back across the goal.
It's the point that Højbjerg was making. but the flag stayed down, and they do have the corner here, the Hammers. Declan Rice to take this one. Sizing up the options inside the penalty area goes near post. A combination of Romero and Richarlison rose to head it clear. I think they actually caught each other as well. Both came away from that, rubbing their heads, and actually Kulusevski has stayed down at the end of it all.
Yeah, it was a strong challenge, shall we say, from Declan Rice from behind. I think clumsy more than anything else, but certainly Kulusevski felt it. Christian Romero, as you mentioned, heading that corner clear, I think clashed heads with Richarlison and is just feeling the worst of it, feeling the side of his head.
Yeah, he stayed down as well. Romero, all a little bit stop-start inside these first 4 minutes, but a positive start really from West Ham. A big early opening from Jarrod Bowen, and then applying the pressure from a couple of set-piece opportunities. We're just getting a second look on our monitors of that coming together really between Richarlison and Romero, but they're going to be okay to continue. Spurs back on the ball with Clement Longley to Eric Dyer. He has Romero to his right-hand side. Instead, he'll look for Kane round about halfway, trying to find Emerson Royal. Eric Dyer has work to do. And so too in the middle part of the pitch did Oliver Skip, as Spurs are forced back into their own box again. Souček surging forward. Ben Davies was caught out a little bit and required Longley to come across and just put that one out of play.
Yeah, West Ham have started on the front foot, putting Spurs under a lot of pressure when they're trying to play forward. Oliver Skip caught in possession, and then obviously Longley as well, forced into a mistake.
Almost 5 minutes in, 0-0, but West Ham will take heart at how the game has started. Bowen and Rice standing over the corner. On the West Ham right, Tilo Kehrer is up from the back. Nygaard in there as well. It's going to be Rice to take in towards the near post area. Højbjerg diverts it away from immediate danger. Took a bit of a swipe at the ball and doesn't quite reach halfway with the clearance. Antonio trying to keep it in play on that far side is unable to do so. It was he, actually, Mikel Antonio, who was the first away player to score at this Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. West Ham the first away team to win back in April of 2019. Ben Davies now on the left-hand side for Spurs. Delivers deep into the penalty area. It's headed out as far as Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Davies might get another go. More advanced role for him today. Generally been on the left of the back three this season.
Yeah, he's playing wing-back today, isn't he? Which I'm sure he'll enjoy. A little bit more tiring for him, though.
Even Perisic given a breather on the bench in that position. Ryan Sessegnon, who had tended to rotate the role with Perisic this season, is sidelined with a hamstring injury. So Davies being asked to do that job as Longley brings the ball under control. Still midway inside the West Ham half of the field, and now Davies into the penalty area he goes. He finds Oliver Skip. Skip will dink it in. Harry Kane coming back from an offside position, makes no attempt to get on the end of it, and ultimately it sails harmlessly behind from Skip for the goal kick. But he impressed in San Siro, didn't he, Oliver Skip, along with Pap Sarr in the inexperienced midfield they were forced to field.
Yeah, he's always... I was fortunate enough to coach him when he was 16 years old. He's always had a very old head on young shoulders, very experienced, very, conscientious of where he is on the pitch, and he'll just sit and allow other players to play around him.
Christian Stellini saying before the game that they would pick the team only on merit today with regard to the opposition, and it would be no reflection on whoever was left out. Skip getting the nod ahead of Pap Sarr, with Højbjerg always likely to return. Now Souček's won it back against Longley. It's awkward as it comes in to the centre of the penalty area. Hit Ben Davies, spun up in the air. Fraser Forster's able to gather it and will be grateful for that opportunity, because this was a little bit risky and at times a little bit careless from Spurs at the back. Longley was the one caught in possession.
Yeah, second time caught in possession. Souček in a really good position. Just couldn't quite find the pass to release Michael Antonio.
There goes Emerson Royal now, charging forward for Spurs. Starting on the halfway line, cutting in from the right to a more central position before being crowded out of it. Harry Kane takes over though and works it wide for Davies. Is drifting in from this near touchline. Richarlison with his back to goal initially. Spins to play it cross field out to the right-hand side, and Kulusevski will whip a return ball in looking for Richarlison. Off the left boot there of the Swede, cleared as far as Harry Kane. Davies has got a touch. Richarlison, it's taken off him just inside the penalty area by Souček, but they can't complete the clearance. Kulusevski will run it back at Souček. Cleared away again, this time only as far as Christian Romero. Then Longley's stooping header back into the penalty area. Headed away before it could reach Richarlison. And Vladimir Sofal clears down the line. the West Ham right. First little bit of prolonged pressure that they've been put under.
Yeah, just a couple of crosses really, just lobbed into the box. Nothing too dangerous for West Ham to deal with, but better from Spurs.
We'll have it here with Højbjerg. To his left is Eric Dyer. And now Clement Longley. This is Dyer again, Kulusevski. And it's Skip inside the centre circle, trying to pick the pass for Emerson Royal. And just after releasing the ball, he then caught Mikel Antonio, who has stayed down around about the halfway line this one, and there's a yellow card for Oliver Skip as a result of that.
Yeah, he just tries to disguise a pass through into Emerson Royal, loses it, and then tries to make up for it by diving into a tackle that he's never going to win, catches Mikel Antonio and picks up the yellow card, rightly so.
First caution of the contest. Oliver Skip's name taken 9 minutes in by Michael Oliver. 0-0 on Premier League Live. Here's Bowen left-hand side, tight to the touchline for West Ham. Couldn't quite control it. Højbjerg has it back. Spurs starting to see a lot more of the ball now. Spurs side that have lost 4 of their last 6 home games here in the Premier League. After victories in each of the previous 8 before that, they did rediscover that winning feeling against Manchester City a fortnight ago.
They found it difficult against teams that just sit back and allow them to have possession. They prefer it when teams come here and play and leave spaces to attack. At the moment, West Ham are just sat back in a nice mid sort of block, just allowing Spurs back 3 just to have the ball without too much pressure on them.
1 win in 10 for West Ham in the Premier League, despite that 3-game unbeaten run with which they arrive, drawing the last 2 matches against Chelsea and Newcastle. Another point today would take them out of the relegation zone again, but they're certainly arriving here aiming for all 3. So just the 6 points on their travels all season in the Premier League. That's a wretched record really outside of the London Stadium. They haven't won away in 9 since the end of August. They have it here to Spurs with Romero to Skip, just assessing his options. To his left, short and square, is Højbjerg. And taking over is Clement Longley. The Frenchman plays the ball down the left-hand side. There's a chase on for Kulusevski. He's just going to reach it before the ball gets to the byline. So he has options in the penalty area here. A little bit too high the cross, but it's cleared only as far as Skip to hit it. Struck it first time flush on the right foot. But a posse of players in the way, and it's blocked behind off Souček, I think, for the corner.
Yeah, it's a bit of poor defending by Kehrer. Goes to the ground. Kulusevski recovers it, keeps it in. Ball comes into the box. It's headed up in the air. Ollie Skip comes onto it with his right foot. I think it was going well wide, but Souček didn't know and blocked it behind for the corner.
So to be taken here by Dejan Kulusevski, left-footed from the left-hand side for Spurs. Headed out as far as Skip, who will look to return it. Kane trying to wait for the ball to bounce. Richarlison's in there as well. It's a big Spurs appeal as Richarlison tried to play that towards Harry Kane. They felt maybe it hit the hand.
Well, I'm sure they'll be looking at it, that's for sure. David Coote, I think, is the VAR today.
He'll be currently studying the footage. The game goes on, nothing given at the time by Michael Oliver. There's a big shout from Richarlison and those in white around him who appeared convinced. There's Højbjerg in the meantime. Spurs patient and probing in possession. The ball over the top towards Ben Davies, who was the furthest forward from that left wing-back role on that occasion. Couldn't quite control it. It's cleared as far as Højbjerg. He will return it with interest. Davies scampering after it. It'll be difficult for him to get to the ball. It's a valiant attempt to keep it in play, which is ultimately unsuccessful. But now Michael Oliver just offers up the hand to say, hold on a second. We're just checking. And before the game gets underway, we will now have...
Wow, that has to be handball.
Confirmation surely. Whether there's going to be a penalty. We've just seen another replay on our monitor here, which suggests this very well could be given.
Yeah, I think so. It's Richarlison tries to play a little reverse pass into Harry Kane, and Thilo Kehrer's arm is very low. It's a long way from his body. I think that's going to be a penalty. Maybe not.
On we go.
Yeah, maybe
no penalty.
Not. I don't see how his arm's certainly not in a natural position. He's stopped the ball getting through to Harry Kane.
No, I'm with you. I was expecting that one to be pulled back, actually.
Absolutely.
But not so. Thilo Kehrer breathing a big sigh of relief. Scored an own goal, actually, against Spurs the last time they met at the start of his West Ham career at the end of August. Can they respond after that little scare by creating something themselves with Vladimir Sofal on this near side? Goes back in field for Thilo Kehrer. Has been a regular really this season since his arrival at the club. He's away at the World Cup with Germany as well during the break. Here's Mikel Antonio working it wider to that left-hand side where it's brought under control beautifully by Emerson. Back in field it goes. Declan Rice is marshalled by Oliver Skipp. Now on this near side for West Ham, they're right with Flynn Downs. Thilo Kehrer swings it in towards the far side, looking for Emerson again. There's Emerson Royal who got there first. Kulusevski leaves West Ham's Emerson on the floor. He's quickly back to his feet because his team are back on the ball. In fact, he has it here. There's Emerson, a player who was signed by Antonio Conte for Chelsea. He was the coach that brought him to English football. Making a fourth straight Premier League start for West Ham now. Aaron Creswell back on the bench today after missing out last week through illness. And now West Ham taking their turn to enjoy plenty of possession.
Yeah, well, going back to that VAR, I think it's not the first time West Ham have been very fortunate. When you think back to Souček's save a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. That was in the Chelsea game, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, last week. I mean, that was very similar. I mean, Thilo Kehrer's hand definitely stops the ball just going through to Harry Kane.
Yeah, very similar incidents, actually. I suppose if last week's wasn't given, then this week's wasn't either. Can West Ham make it count? They've had 2/3 of the ball so far, have Spurs, in this opening quarter of an hour. The better chances really have been at the other end. Certainly Jared Bowen in the very first minute of the match. Now there's going to be a free kick round about the halfway line again here. Further frustration for Hotspur as West Ham get the kick.
He was just late on a tackle. Seeing that penalty, it has to be a penalty. I don't understand how it's not. How you can't give that.
Well, it clearly hit. There's no doubt that it hit the left hand of.
He's blocked the pass to
Kehrer.
Harry Kane. He has literally stuck his hand out and blocked it.
It did appear as if the movement was hand to ball. It's not as if he was trying to get his hand out of the way.
That is, it's amazing.
It wasn't given by the referee. Maybe you could understand that. Maybe he didn't see exactly what had happened.
For the referee to see, but
VAR to look at the footage and say, well, there was no obvious error there. That is a curious one. That's the major talking point so far as Spurs advance here. Kane's ball into the box was deflected. It almost fell for Richarlison, who then was at least hoping for a corner kick out of it as he was closed down on the byline by Lucas Fabianski. Not much going Spurs' way so far.
No, absolutely not. No. Ball forward from Harry Kane, takes a deflection, loops up into the air. Very quick to react. Richarlison gets there before Fabianski, but just can't quite control it. Felt it came off of Fabianski and he should have had a corner.
Cleared away instead by the goalkeeper. Richarlison on as they substitute in 5 of the last 7 games, getting only a 6th Premier League start for Spurs today. Still looking for his first league goal for his new club, the club that he signed for in the summer. He is 2 short of a half-century of career Premier League goals, actually, is Richarlison. In for Son from the start today. West Ham go longer, looking for the run of Mikel Antonio. Hotspur will return it towards Harry Kane, just allowed it to bounce in front of him. So Thilo Kehrer was able to get the touch to that. And now Egert, it was a doubt for the game, having come off with a groin injury against Chelsea last week. But past fit to start. And Jared Bowen here picks up possession in a pocket of space just outside the penalty area and then flashed it in where Thomas Souček was stretching and couldn't quite connect. 6 yards from goal. It just evaded him and it went wide of that far post. But Spurs didn't really deal with Bowen here, who had all sorts of time to bring that longer ball under control. And it may well have been offside anyway had Souček got to it.
Yeah, it was a good ball into Jared Bowen. No one closed him down. He continued to run towards the edge of the box. And then it was kind of a hard to tell whether it was a pass or a shot. He sort of was in 2 minds, Jared Bowen. And Souček was inches away from getting on the end of it, but I think would have been given offside.
There's Emerson Royal up the other end towards Kulusevski, drifting infield. West Ham plenty back as Kane takes the shot on. Likelihood always there that he would hit one of those West Ham defenders, so many of them back there were there, and it was Angela Ogbonna that was in the way, and it's Hotspur who has it inside the centre circle for Spurs. 18 minutes in, Premier League Live, 0-0. at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Not short of incident so far, though, that is for sure. There's Declan Rice on halfway. Bowen had come close to give him an option. Instead, he switched the play for Tilo Kehrer. He's the player in the penalty area that maybe could have conceded the penalty kick that didn't after the VAR review. A clenching challenge by Soucek. Dispossessing Longley as the cross is hoisted in. Nobody able to attack it really for West Ham. Emerson Royal brings it away. Kulusevski will come clear with it. Held up by Declan Rice. Kulusevski looking for options as a result of that. Spurs still being pinned back inside their own half of the field here. Briefly anyway, Højbjerg will change that with the pass into the feet of Harry Kane. Kane was looking for Kulusevski. It was cut out by Rice. And Kane got a bit too tight, I think, to Jared Bowen, to Flynn Downs, I should say, who's gone down. And West Ham get the free kick just inside their own half.
Yeah, Declan Rice is so good at that, isn't he? You know, getting his defensive position right, intercepting passes, the way he slowed down Kulusevski on that counter-attack and just allowed West Ham to get back into shape. Certainly, I think, the best defensive midfielder in our league.
Yeah, incredible role that he's got in this team, incredible player, and he won't be short of suitors, that is for sure. That's going to be another interesting situation come the summer. Foul on Skip this time on halfway. Spurs free kick is taken pretty quickly for Clement Longley, who'd begun the last 4 Premier League matches back on the bench, having started 8 in a row prior to that. But recalled to the team today. Touch for Skip, and now Romero. Served a suspension in the league at Leicester last week. And they conceded those 4 goals, their heaviest Premier League defeat under Antonio Conte, actually. Who is missing again today, back recovering in Italy. Had a check post-op after the surgery to remove his gallbladder. He'd been back in the dugout for the previous couple of games, and the medical advice was to remain in Italy and recover and recuperate. There's been no time scale put on his return this time. I think an admission may be that he did come back a little bit too quickly first time around, so they won't repeat that. But he's been involved, albeit from home.
I'm sure,
absolutely. In constant contact with Christian Stellini.
Yeah, you'd expect him to be in contact with Stellini, to be, you know, picking the team to a certain extent, that's for sure.
I think Stellini saying at least 3 or 4 times a day they've been in dialogue, and Conte having his say, but watching from afar today. And Stellini actually has a 100% record when he's taken charge on the touchline. The win against Manchester City in the last home game was a Champions League match earlier in the season as well, against Marseille, for which Conte was suspended, and they won that one as well. And he says he's not necessarily enjoying it, he's just there to fulfil his responsibility, and it's very much a team effort at Tottenham at the moment, taking charge of the team. They have it here with Romero heading towards the midway point of this first half. He'll just shift it to his left-hand side. And Oliver Skip assessing his options in field. West Ham dropping deep. Everybody back behind the ball in Clarendon Blue. And that might become a familiar sight, certainly in this stage of the game. Touch forward by Clement Longley, looking for Richarlison. He's away from Kerr. He's into the penalty area. Sofal got a foot in. Soucek is able to clear it. Took a big swing at that with the right boot. Antonio couldn't hold it up against Eric Dyer, though. Kulusevski has it. Has Emerson Royal to his right. Corner of the penalty area on the Spurs right. Being closely marshalled by Emerson. Back goes Kulusevski to Højbjerg. Kulusevski again seeing plenty of it just at the moment. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Kulusevski inside the penalty area. Trying to take on Agard, who just stood his ground, really. And was able to shepherd that one out of play. As a result, shut the door in the face of Dejan Kulusevski.
Yeah, Spurs find it very, very tough to break down this West Ham defence. They're packed, defending the edge of the box. They've got the midfield just in front. There's no space for Harry Kane. Declan Rice there was almost just literally standing in front of Harry Kane, so he can't get it into his feet. I think they're happy for pretty much anyone else to get it to feet, but just not Harry Kane.
West Ham so well organised defensively, despite the fact that only Southampton actually have fewer clean sheets this season. One goal has often been enough to do the damage, though, because at the other end, the Hammers haven't carried their familiar threat from recent seasons. Just 19 scored in 22 previous Premier League games, and they've already extended their record as being the only team who've never scored this season in the Premier League in the first 15 minutes of a game. We've got to the midway point of this first half. without being able to trouble the target yet either, despite the early chance for Jared Bowen, who's back on the ball here. Wide left, it almost deflected favourably for Mikel Antonio just inside the penalty area. Spurs scramble it clear as far as Kehrer. Declan Rice will take a touch. He'll get it back from Flynn Downs. And now Souček, who's playing quite advanced so far in this game, combining with his compatriot. Sofal's cross is got out by Ben Davies for the throw. Taken by Sofal back down the line. West Ham not hanging around, certainly displaying their attacking intent. Downs looking for Souček, who takes a tumble, ends up flat on his back on the edge of the penalty area. Spurs force the Hammers back to halfway. Declan Rice inside the centre circle. They're almost taking it in turns, these two teams, though. They have little spells in the ascendancy dominating the ball.
Yeah. Both sides are happy for the other to have possession. They're not really pressing high up the pitch.
Cleared to halfway here by the Hammers, where Bowen will chase. Longley just seems to stop, appealing for a hand. And that does get the decision from the referee. It was a little bit risky, though, because had he not done so, there would have been all sorts of space in behind him. He was convinced enough there was the Frenchman. And Spurs take it pretty quickly. They will look to build from the back again. Eric Dyer to Christian Romero. And now Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Lost 8 of the last 16 in the Premier League of Spurs since the start of October. Only 4 teams beaten more frequently during that period. It's in complete contrast to just one defeat in the 18 league games that went before that. And yet, remarkably, their record at this stage of the season is exactly the same as it was a year ago.
I read that stat too, and it shows just how well they finished the season off last year. It's hard to see them being able to do the same with as you say, Antonio Conte potentially not being around as much.
Yeah, 23 games last season. They also had 39 points. They won 10 of the 15 games that followed to overhaul Arsenal once again and make the top 4. Win here, they'd be back in the top 4 tonight as well. But it is a big if just at the moment. 25 minutes in, they haven't created too much. That one big penalty shout aside, I guess, is the major talking point. Spurs 0, West Ham 0 on Premier League Live at TalkSport Live, our Twitter address. If you care to get in touch with us, offer up a prediction where you think this game is heading today, and indeed where you are listening to. It's always great to hear from you all around the world on Premier League Live. London Derby Day to wrap up the weekend in the Premier League, and there's going to be a free kick here for Ogbona's challenge on Harry Kane. It's been about midway inside the West Ham half of the field, but it was a little clumsy.
Yeah, he can't win the ball. He has to come and bundle into the back of Harry Kane to win the ball. It's a poor decision. I understand that there's an intensity to West Ham. They don't want to let Harry Kane get the ball and turn, but you just have to pick and choose your times.
We'll take it pretty quickly here. This is Romero to Emerson Royal. Harry Kane with 11 goals against West Ham down the years in 18 appearances against them for Spurs, but he hasn't scored actually in any of his last 5 in this fixture. He is on the ball again here, looking to help it on towards Clement Longley. Stopped in his tracks by the intervention of Vladimir Sofal for the throw, which Kane himself actually takes quickly and will look to try and get it back. Davis back to goal, was attempting to shield that and play it into the path of Harry Kane. Then it's blocked for Emerson Royal, who shot charged down almost as soon as it leaves his boot, forces Spurs back towards the halfway line. But they could come again. Christian Romero forward. This is Kane trying to slip it through to Richarlison. Importantly cut out by Thilo Kehrer. And just as Jared Bowen was trying to get West Ham away on the counter-attack, he was dispossessed. And Spurs come again. Kane to Kulusevski inside the penalty area. Marshalled away from goal. Support, though, from Emerson Royal. Kulusevski again on the left foot. Right-hand side of the box. Whips the cross in towards Kane. Headed out by Thomas Souček. Davis will try and return it and dinks it in dangerously. Off the head of Agard this time for Kulusevski. Will keep it in and return it once more, but he's overhit the cross this time as the Swede. Missed out everybody in the middle. Bounced once and goes behind for the goal kick.
Yeah, good defending from West Ham. Put under a bit of continuous pressure there from Spurs. Crosses coming in from both sides of the pitch, but West Ham defending them well.
Challenge laid down in that respect, certainly. 27 and a half minutes on the clock. Spurs 0, West Ham 0. Big implications at both ends of the table in this game. Spurs having conceded 35 times in the Premier League already this season. That's the 6th most of any side. 4th most shots per game.
conceded 2+ more than any other team in the Premier League, which is amazing when you talk about that about an Antonio Conte team.
Well, so unlike a Conte side, isn't it? And certainly in recent months, I think taking it back to October, only Leeds United have a worse defensive record in the division than Spurs. Haven't been tested too frequently so far today. That one balloons through for Fraser Forster, who's had a difficult time of it really since coming in for Hugo Lloris, certainly last week. Letting in the 4 at Leicester. He played on Boxing Day as well, didn't he, Fraser Forster, with Lloris just coming back from the World Cup final. Getting a little run in the side now. Not quite clear yet just how long Lloris will be missing for. There's another Frenchman, Clement Longley, who will swing in the cross, left-footed from the Spurs left, aimed towards Harry Kane. Emerson brings it away for West Ham. Can't quite keep it in play on that far side, having turned it away from danger and evaded the attentions of Emerson Royal initially. But it's the Brazilian for Spurs who will take the throw.
I think we spoke before the game, didn't we, about both sides playing the same shape and maybe just cancelling each other out, and it's kind of been a little bit like that, hasn't it? You know, very difficult for both teams to create chances.
Yeah, there's certainly been an element of that. Richarlison trying to change it as he took on Thilo Kehrer, got the block in. West Ham get the goal kick as we head rapidly for the half-hour mark here. I guess given how the game has gone, the way that it's settled down, West Ham will probably be the happier of the two, will they?
Absolutely. I mean, the longer this game goes on and Spurs don't score, these fans, you know, having seen them go behind so many times at home this season, will start to get nervy.
Yeah, that's been another recurring theme, really, for Spurs this season. As they chase shadows in midfield just at the moment. West Ham controlling the ball. A little touch for Downs, the summer signing from Swansea City, hoping to stake his claim. It's his 150th appearance in Senior League football today, but only a 4th start in the Premier League. The challenge comes in on Sofal from Davies. Just in from the touchline, brings David Moyes to his feet. It unfolded just in front of him, really, patrolling the edge of his technical area. Been coming under pressure this season. That's David Moyes, who hasn't won any of his last 12 visits to Tottenham since the win with Everton in November of 2008 against Harry Redknapp, who was the Spurs manager at the time. But game number 644 of his Premier League career this afternoon. West Ham sticking by him despite the disappointing first half of the season that they've had. They attack here with Mikel Antonio, but his ball was an errant one. He was trying to help it on into the path of Ogbonna, who'd ventured forward from centre-back, but it wasn't precise enough. The attempted clearance from Davis, cannons off Sofal for the throw. Spurs being pinned back a little bit in and around their own penalty area right now.
Yeah, they are. They're finding it difficult to play through West Ham. Really difficult. That ball was a good one into Kulusevski, but he seems to have lost possession now.
Nobody quite able really to dictate the tempo, to assert their authority. As a result of that, there is still nothing between the teams. Lee Hutz tweeted us, driving through Idaho, passing rail cars full of cars. He sent the photo in to match, actually. Always great to hear from you wherever you are listening to us around the world today. Do get in touch at TalkSport Live, the best way to do so. A Spurs advance here. Kulusevski's going to let it go for Ben Davies, who will cut it back into the penalty area instead. Emerson Royal shrugs his shoulders in the direction of his opposite wing-back, actually, because he made the run forward and wanted the service. It wasn't quite accurate enough to afford him an opportunity.
Yeah, and it was the West Ham Emerson who ended up being in the right position to clear it.
It's a big individual battle, that, the two Emersons, isn't it, today?
Up and down that side, absolutely, yep. Both Brazilian heritage.
Yep. Yeah, West Ham's Italian international hailing from Brazil. Emerson Royal with competition for his place at Spurs after the deadline day arrival of Pedro Porro, who did debut against Leicester last week. And it was Emerson Royal who impressed here against Manchester City and got his place back at Milan in the Champions League as well. He's back on the ball just inside the penalty area. He will dink it in towards Richarlison. Almost came through for Ben Davies as well. He will scamper after it now to try and keep that in play. Just about did so. Tight to the byline, right-footed cross, aimed for Kane. Richarlison beaten in the air by Thomas Soucek. Cleared as far as Højbjerg. Looking for Emerson Royal and West Ham's Emerson Palmieri again just stood his ground and ensured that Spurs ran out of room.
Lovely ball to the back post. It almost fell for Ben Davies. Royale's ball just over the head of Richarlison. Ben Davies didn't really see it coming. Then he put the cross back in at the end, and well defended by Emerson Palmieri.
At the expense of this corner kick, which is an in-swinger from Kulusevski. Fabianski gets two hands to it. Didn't get an awful lot of distance on the clearance, but it is helped further away from trouble. Emerson Royale with the ball back for Spurs just inside the West Ham half. Now Højbjerg, who will square it to his right. Emerson Royale again, looking for options ahead of him, combining with Romero this time. He thought actually about going all the way back to Fraser Forth. Drops against that, finds Longley instead. And now Højbjerg, but West Ham have had plenty of time to reorganise defensively and get players back behind the ball. Spurs do now retreat midway inside their own half to maintain possession, and now Skip does go all the way back to Fraser Forster.
Yeah, well, Spurs haven't got any shape at all. You got Emerson Royale playing at left side centre back. You've got Christian Romero playing a lot higher up the pitch. Eric Dyer was slow to get back in. Spurs just needed to retain the ball there just to get some shape.
One or two murmurs of discontent from the home fans as well in response to that.
And they will, having lost 4 of the last 6 at home. And they're not creating anything to get these fans on their feet.
A lot of possession at the moment is in front of their own penalty area, as is the case right now. They switch it wider for Emerson Royale, who advances a couple of paces. Declan Rice trying to block off the angles available to him. So he will leave it for Kulusevski. And now Romero. Mikel Antonio with him. Romero was looking for Richarlison. It's cleared back to the Argentinian Christian Romero for Spurs. Emerson Royale just in from the touchline. Jared Bowen back with him. Now advances up towards the edge of the box. Goes down under Bowen's challenge. And he's able to complete the clearance as well, Jared Bowen. But Antonio beaten to it by Dyer. Chase on for Skip on that far side as well. Helped out by Dyer, who lofts it down the line. Brought under control by Kulusevski. Ball was aimed in towards the run of Richarlison and didn't quite reach him. Instead, Vladimir Sofal is able to come clear for West Ham before Flynn Downs is dispossessed on the halfway line. This is Harry Kane. Opens up for him. Now Skip to his right takes over. Oliver Skip looking for options. Declan Rice is with him. Resists the temptation to snap into the challenge. Just reduces the options available to him, really, instead. And it's Kulusevski now. Bounces back to him off Souček. To his right is Skip. Emerson Royale. West Ham with virtually everybody camped in and around their own penalty area. Højbjerg on the right foot gets the shot away. Skims through a congested penalty area and comes all the way through for Fabianski. Gets down to his right to make a fairly routine save, but an effort on target at least from Højbjerg.
Yeah, well, the fans were desperate for someone to just shoot. Spurs have been so patient. Højbjerg, in the end, takes it on with his right foot, but far too close to Fabianski, who clutches it to his chest. Simple save for him.
No problems with that one for Lucas Fabianski. Free kick here for West Ham. For the challenge on Jared Bowen. Just inside the Spurs half by Romero. I think, and the official stats actually have just confirmed this, that was the first shot on target of the game at either end, the one from Højbjerg.
And it just shows where these two teams at the moment, are very happy defending deep. There's no space. It's very difficult to create a chance at the moment.
Fine margins. Nothing separating the sides on Derby Day in North London. Tottenham Hotspur 0, West Ham United 0, 37 on the clock on Premier League Live. Forward by Sofal for the Hammers. Oliver Skip is underneath it. Only really had Romero back in support, but they've worked it well, created a little bit of space for Longley. And he will play it infield to the feet of Højbjerg. Gets it back again here, Clement Longley. 12th start of the Premier League season since his summer arrival from Barcelona. Now Romero inside the centre circle, just slowing it down. Antonio squaring up to him. But noticeably, when West Ham are pressurising the player in possession, they're not committing to the challenge, are they?
The West Ham are in a really good defensive shape. Spurs find it so hard to play against them. Harry Kane found a bit of space, but then tried to slip a ball through to Richarlison. And because they're camped on the edge of their 18-yard box, it just has to be the perfect way to pass to get anyone in.
Yeah, very little room in which to work. Kane just bounced off the challenge, really. Flynn Downs, which for a split second or so threatened to open something up for Spurs, but not so, as he looked for Richarlison and was unable to find him. They haven't been able to find that threat in front of goal either side, really. Spurs do have a decent enough record against teams in the bottom half of the table this season. In fact, they've won 8 of 11 so far, and the Arsenal and Manchester City with more such victories. West Ham arriving in the bottom 3 after those wins yesterday for Everton and for Bournemouth. Spurs trying to build from the back here, just inside their own penalty area. A little risky, but Fraser Forster kept his composure, as did those in front of him. Kane's overrun it though and lost out initially. Emerson Royale against Ogbonna and then skipped forward. Good ball forward as well. If it will come down for Kulusevski, who's a little unlucky that the bounce of the ball didn't favour him. Agard was able to step in and make the challenge, and Romero will just get to it ahead of Antonio on the touchline.
It's been fiercely competitive, isn't it? You know, challenges have been flying in, but the game's just lacking that little bit of quality, that moment where someone can just take that extra touch and open someone up.
We said right at the start, didn't we, that the commitment is a given on an occasion such as this, a derby like this. Who could find that bit of quality? And as yet, neither team have been able to manage it, but certainly plenty of talent out there. The longer the game goes, the more stretched it might get, and there are individuals more than capable of making a difference in a match of fine margins like this one. So far, we'll take the throw here for West Ham. We're heading towards the final 5 minutes of the first half. We'll get the ball back from Flynn Downs and venture forward with intent. Antonio's made the run. Longley is with him, but Souček will get there first, and it needed Romero to come across as well, helping out his central defensive colleague with a timely intervention. Again, Thomas Souček, the most advanced for West Ham.
I think Romero's hurt himself making that challenge. He flies into this challenge. A bit of a scissor challenge, actually. Gets all of the ball and quite a lot of Souček. So committed, isn't he? Times his challenges really well the majority of the time, Christian Romero.
He wasn't going to leave that one to chance, was he? But he has hurt himself, and he has now gone down, and looks like he's going to require some medical assistance, Christian Romero.
He's the crucial player in this Spurs team. When he doesn't play, Spurs look anything but convincing at the back. That's why they conceded 4 at Leicester for me. You know, he is crucial to this back 3 and the way Spurs want to play.
He got that late red card against Manchester City, which kept him out at Leicester last week. Jeffet Tanganga was the player who deputised. Davinson Sanchez came on as a substitute in place of him, by which time the damage really had been done in that game. Has Romero got an issue here? And this would be a big concern for Spurs, particularly at this stage of the season. So many key players already sidelined and so many big games to come. They do actually have a full week until the next match, which at this time of year is a bit of a luxury, really, the home game with Chelsea. But then it's Sheffield United in the FA Cup, a trip to Wolves, the second leg against Milan in the Champions League. Key stage of the season. Unclear, of course, how involved Antonio Conte is going to be in that period as well, whether he'll be back at the club by then. The concern at the moment is over Romero. Looks a bit more promising as he jogs down the touchline after some treatment.
Yeah, he looks as though he can certainly continue. Had a little bit of spray on his ankle.
He's come off before he can go back on again, but he will come back on again, and does so. To keep an eye on, though, in the last few minutes of the half. It might be something they assess at the interval, but more promising for Spurs than it may be initially looked. Mikel Antonio, the next to go down. He's quickly back on his feet, rubbing the back of his head after a little bit of a blow to the West Ham number 9, who is looking for goal number 100, actually, of his senior league career today, but he hasn't scored in his last 12 Premier League matches now. He's hoping renewing acquaintances with Spurs might end that sequence, given they are a favoured opponent of his. From the free kick that comes, Bowen is actually going to reach it. Fraser Forster has started to come, didn't get there. Bowen returns it into the middle. Souček is challenging for it. Spurs clear it away, but the referee steps in because there is the suspicion of a head injury here. That was a nasty looking injury. Trying to see who's down. I think it might be Ben Davies, who took a bit of a blow there. There was immediate concern, wasn't there, which is why the whistle went.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the medics are back on again.
I think it's Longley potentially on the floor.
Posse of players in that penalty area as they tried to deal with the danger, because there was a little bit of uncertainty from Fraser Forster.
Yeah, he was a bit slow off his line when it looked as though he would have easily got there, but Jarrod Bowen beaten to it, turned, put a cross back into the box, and that was when Longley, I think, got hurt. I think a clash of heads potentially with Souček. He stayed down.
Christian Stellini pacing up and down the edge of his technical area at the moment, just awaiting word here on Longley, who is flat on the floor. Looks to be conscious, I think. But it was a painful blow. We haven't yet seen a replay of it. That might suggest actually how painful. But they are waiting for word on the Spurs bench. It might be one that they can't even get to half-time before changing. And we're only talking 90 seconds or so of the first 45. This, of course, will extend the time that we will play beyond the 45-minute mark. Ivan Perisic would be the likely replacement. Davis would go back to centre-back. But good to see Longley back on his feet now. That's the reason for the applause that you can hear in the background, but he still looks a little groggy.
He does, doesn't he? Yep. He's looking at the physio, and you're not really sure whether he's going to continue. I think Spurs would certainly like to get to half-time before they have to make a substitution. I think Perisic would be the one to probably come on. Ben Davis would go and play back at his normal role at left side centre-back.
Yeah, that would be the obvious alternative, I guess, wouldn't it, if that change is required. Perisic was the one that was summoned immediately. Davinson Sanchez would be the other alternative, I guess. Japhet Tanganga mentioned he also started at Leicester last week. He's amongst the Spurs subs as well. They will hope that's not a decision that they have to make at this juncture. Longley is going to finish the first half anyway. He's just come across to the sidelines and been sent straight back onto the field. He's convinced the medical team that he's okay to continue. Fraser Forster takes the kick and play back underway with Richarlison challenging Souček inside the Spurs half. It will break for Sofal down the line, overhits it. Flag up anyway to suggest the ball had gone out of play before he was able to do that. And Spurs will have the throw. We're about to find out from Chris Kavanagh, the fourth official, how much added time there will be at the end of the first 45, and just the three of them. Thought there might have been more actually, given the lengthy delays of late.
Sometimes they send that message across a little bit earlier than, and I think that foul may well add a little bit on. Whether they'll add that on at the end of the three or whether they'll add it on maybe at the end of the second half, we'll have to wait and see.
First half not quite finished yet anyway, that is for sure, despite having played the first 45. Chances have been at a premium. It probably remains actually that Jarrod Bowen, with that one inside the first 60 seconds, has maybe had the best chance.
Yeah, I mean, real lack of chances created by both teams. Efforts from the edge of the box have been the best opportunities, really. That penalty shout, I think I'd be really aggrieved if I was Spurs.
It's certainly the one moment they will reflect on as Kane launches it long here for Richarlison, who's away from the goalkeeper but forced a little wider, and because of that Fabianski was able to get the block in with his right boot and just nudge it behind for the corner. He was in trouble for a moment, with Richarlison having been picked out beautifully by Harry Kane.
It's a brilliant ball from Kane, and just think, could Richarlison have got there first time with his left foot and hit it on the half volley? As it was, he was forced wide by Fabianski. Tries to cut it back in the goal with his left foot, but Fabianski closes the angle down, concedes the corner.
Did well, the goalkeeper, in the circumstances, because it was a beautiful ball from Harry Kane. Here's the corner from Kulusevski in towards the penalty area, and it's a towering header which is just over the top from Longley. Lands on the roof of the net, and if there was any suspicion of an injury, that might just have tested it out. He got plenty of power in the header.
Yeah, really good header. Gets up early, 12 yards out, just can't get over it enough to find its way under the crossbar. I think Fabianski would have had it covered.
I think actually it was Romero who made the contact with the header. The two centre-backs rose at the same time. It was a deceptive one, but it didn't trouble the target. Landed on the roof of the net, although Spurs are ending the half strongly in first half stoppage time. Højbjerg forward towards Kulusevski. He's set off in pursuit of it. Fabianski got there first. And a bit of work to do with his feet, though, to clear on the edge of the box, and does so now. Romero will scamper after it. And there'll certainly be time for another attack or two yet. Takes the return pass from Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. And returns it to the Dane to assess his options further forward. Into the feet of Kane with back to goal. Snapping at his heels was Agert. That's a good ball for Højbjerg. He continued his run down the right. He's going to leave it for Kulusevski instead, taking on Ogbonna, left-footed cross. Richarlison was his target, headed away by Souček. Kane will try and pick up the pieces just ahead of Mikel Antonio. Holds off Downs and slips at the point of contact, really, as he tried to swing that ball back into the box. It was harmless when he did so. It was gathered up by the goalkeeper, and it's the last action of the first half, which ends goalless. West Ham with a big chance through Jared Bowen at the start of it, but it remained their best chance, really. Spurs will feel they should have had a penalty, a handball decision against Thilo Kehrer that wasn't given. VAR took a look at it and stuck with Michael Oliver's call on the field. Spurs will be aggrieved about that. They had their chances late in the half, but more is going to be required if either team is to find a winner after the break. At half-time here, it's Tottenham Hotspur 0, West Ham United 0. You are listening to Premier League Live. Time at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. No goals yet in the London derby today between Spurs and West Ham. Not too many chances really either in that first 45. We will dissect the details shortly in the company of Chris Perry. But one result already today in the early game at Old Trafford as Manchester United's impressive form continued with the victory against Leicester City. Let's get the details from Alex Crook, who was commentating on this one earlier.
Manchester United 3, Leicester City 0. The Red Devils move within 5 points of Premier League leaders Arsenal. Marcus Rashford continuing the season of his life with 2 more goals, opening the scoring in the 25th minute with an unerring finish beyond Danny Ward in the Leicester goal after beating the Foxes offside trap. Rashford helped himself to his and United's second with another coolly taken goal 11 minutes into the second half, and Jadon Sancho wrapped up the victory 5 minutes later off the bench to score against Leicester for the second time this season. The visitors did have opportunities in the first half, David De Gea making a couple of excellent saves en route to setting a new club record of 179 clean sheets for Manchester United. One defeat in 17 now for Erik ten Hag's side since returning from the World Cup. They face Barcelona in the Europa League on Thursday, and this was the perfect preparation. Manchester United 3, Leicester 0.
Really good run there on under Erik ten Hag at the moment. Incredible run that Marcus Rashford is on. Another couple of goals for him this afternoon. Let's get his reaction after the game.
You know, we found people in pockets, found Bruno in pockets, Fred, and they're creating chances for us. So we need to try and look to do that from the beginning. But it's also a positive that we're not playing at our best and we're going at half-time, a goal up. So definitely stuff to improve on and learn from, but overall a good day.
Another impressive day, Chris Parry, for Manchester United, and it moves them within 3 points, actually, of Manchester City, only 5 behind the leaders, Arsenal. Are they in the title race?
I think they are, yeah. I really do think they are. They're the most consistent of the top 3 teams at the moment. They are finding ways to win, as Marcus Rashford said. Didn't play well in the first half, but still came in 1-0 up, and then they were able to turn it on a little bit in the second half and pull away. They're in it because I think Ten Hag is doing a fantastic job.
It's an incredible run of form that Marcus Rashford is in, but it is more now than that, isn't it? He's showing the consistency week in, week out in games like this where he's making the difference.
He is, absolutely. He is the form player in the Premier League at the moment, and any team that comes up against him is going to have to be really worried and have to play really well to stop him scoring, because he is absolutely on fire.
Making the difference against Leicester today. Brendan Rodgers, we can hear from now, spoke after the game about how conceding those 2 quick goals just after the break really gave them too much to do.
We give away a disappointing second goal and then the third one quickly after, and I'd seen the game go away from us, really. So it was a disappointing second half, lots to look at in the first half and take into our next game.
Yeah, it won't necessarily determine their season, but it's another loss for Leicester, who are 4 points clear of West Ham in the relegation zone as things stand. And they're still in that relegation battle, aren't they?
They are, yeah, but I think that they're starting to find some better performances. I mean, any team at the moment can go to Old Trafford and get beat, and I think they'll be okay, Leicester.
As they showed, I guess, last
against
week
Spurs,
with the 4 that they got against Spurs. Yeah. At the moment, it's West Ham trying to catch them in the battle at the bottom. Even a point today would move the Hammers out of the relegation zone level with Bournemouth and Everton, and they would have a better goal difference than both of those two. A win would move them level with Wolves. It's still very tight down there, and this game is still there for the Hammers if they can find that bit more of an attacking threat, I guess, because defensively they've been impressive, and that kind of sums up their season so far.
Yeah, and as I mentioned in the first, the longer this game goes on, the more nervous this Tottenham crowd are going to get, the more that's going to translate onto the pitch and to the Spurs players. So the longer it stays 0-0, I think the more chance there's going to be of West Ham getting a set piece or something like that and scoring the winner.
There's been very little between them so far, not too many chances in the game. The one major talking point, I guess, was the penalty that wasn't given, the big shout for handball against Thilo Kehrer. We've seen it various times on the replays on our monitors here. VAR had a look at it at the time and very quickly allowed play to continue after Michael Oliver had done likewise. It's the more you see it, the more curious the decision that appears, really.
It's an absolutely baffling decision, if you ask me. Richarlison brings the ball down. He tries to pass the ball into the path of Harry Kane, who would have been able to have a clear shot at goal. And Thilo Kehrer leans over and literally puts his hand out and stops the pass. Now, I can understand the referee on the pitch, Michael Oliver, not seeing it because there's lots of bodies around there. But how David Coote in the VAR studio does not see that and does not give that, it's absolutely baffling. I can see them having to make another apology on Monday morning.
There's been a few of those recently, hasn't there? Yeah. This another big call, and again, it went West Ham's way, not dissimilar, as we mentioned in commentary at the time, to the one that Thomas Soucek got away with against Chelsea the previous week. That aside, Spurs didn't really create too much, just maybe a few signs at the end of the half that they were beginning to step up the intensity of the attack a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the chance at the end for Richarlison was the first time they've really been able to get Harry Kane on the ball, turn, facing forward, and we know how good he is with runners going beyond him. Richarlison running in behind. Harry Kane's ball was excellent, and that was probably the best they've looked. And I'm sure Spurs will be looking at ways of maybe just creating a bit more space for Harry Kane to get on the ball, maybe trying to drag West Ham up the pitch a little bit to leave them a bit more space to play in behind.
Surely we see Son
At
sooner rather than later, you would have thought.
If Spurs don't score, you'd have to think Son will come on at some stage. I'd like to see him come on maybe in place of Kulusevski and play with the front three of Richarlison, Kane and Son. I think that's really exciting.
That could be an option for them. West Ham and David Moyes, I guess, will be happy enough with how it's gone so far. They won't be changing things yet, will they?
No, I don't think so. No, I think if he comes here and keeps a clean sheet and gets a point, I think he'll be pleased with that.
Yeah, it's on course for David Moyes and his team to do that. We shall see. The second half is on the way very shortly. Full commentary to come. Spurs will be hoping to try and step things up a little bit. Can West Ham get the win that would give them that little bit of breathing space at the bottom of the table? We shall see shortly, because other results already this weekend have not been particularly favourable for the Hammers, particularly those victories for Bournemouth and Everton yesterday, which moved them up above David Moyes' team. Spurs need the win to move above Newcastle into the top four. That is their target today. That is their challenge in this second half. Spurs 0, West Ham United 0 at the break. The second half is on the way next. You're listening to Premier League Live. Yet 0-0. at the interval. Chances at a premium, just the 2 attempts on target actually in that first half, both from Spurs. West Ham, who threatened first with the Jarrod Bowen effort that went wide, rarely did so again as the first half went on, but defended with discipline and diligence and have kept Spurs at bay. Let me remind you of how they're lining up. Forster in goal, Romero, Dyer and Longley at the back for Spurs, Emerson Royal and Ben Davies the wing backs, Højbjerg and Skip in the centre of midfield, Kulusevski and Richarlison supporting Harry Kane. West Ham with Fabianski in goal, Kjær, Agard and Ogbonna, a back three, Sofal and Emerson the wing back, Souček and Rice, and with Flynn Downs in midfield, Jarrod Bowen supporting Mikel Antonio. Both do have plenty of attacking options in reserve. Doesn't appear as if they've been utilised at this juncture. Both bosses just waiting a little bit longer before changing things. Spurs with Son amongst the subs. Only the second time this season he's been named on the bench, and on the previous occasion he came on to score a hat-trick against Leicester City. He's only managed one other goal in all of the games that he started. I'm sure we will see him at some stage in the second half. West Ham out second, but they will be the happier, Chris Perry, at this point.
Yeah, definitely. Clean sheet. They've controlled the game really well. Limited Spurs chances. Had a couple of half chances themselves. I think they'll be really pleased, David Moyes and his West Ham team.
It will be Spurs who get the second half underway, playing as we look at it in the second period from left to right in the famous white shirts and blue shorts. West Ham in their home colours today as well, in the claret and blue. And they are immediately on the ball with Declan Rice to Mikel Antonio, and back again, and Rice has just towed it away from Longley and set off on a search down that right-hand side. Longley going with him, unable to shepherd the ball out of play though. Rice did have some support arriving from Flynn Downs, but equally Spurs got back in numbers just to guide that one back to Fraser Forster. But it's the away team who've begun the half on the ball.
Yeah, and as they did the first half, they've begun really positively.
Create that chance for Bowen at the start of the game. Let's see if they can fashion something here. It's Fabianski who goes longer this time, right-footed clearance from the edge of his own area. Højbjerg then just got a little shove from behind from Sofal, enough to earn the free kick. And there's a little bit of afters as well as Sofal takes a tumble. The two of them fall over each other, really. It ends amicably enough.
Yeah,
as he helps him back to his feet.
Just a tangle of legs, wasn't it?
Spurs free kick, minute into the second period. Eric Dyer on the ball. 150th appearance for the club today. He's been a regular this season. He's started all but one in the Premier League. Is it again? The heart of their defence and working it to his left for Longley. Shown no ill effects from the head injury that he suffered late in the first half. He's back on the ball again here. He was looking for Richarlison. It's cut out though by Sofal. And taking over wide on that right-hand side, and he will play it back infield to Declan Rice inside the centre circle. Rice to his left for Emerson, who maybe hasn't got forward as much as he would have liked throughout the course of the game so far. That's risky from Agard though. He's given it away to Harry Kane, who's played in Kulusevski. Kulusevski cuts back infield on the left foot, tees up Richarlison, and he doesn't get the power in the shot. Right-footed from the edge of the penalty area straight at Fabianski. By which point West Ham had got players back behind the ball again, because they were almost in here, Spurs, and they will feel that they should have scored after Agard had been dispossessed. Kane looking to combine with Kulusevski. Maybe the best chance was his. And when the effort was diverted, goal was by Richarlison, it wasn't threatening.
Kulusevski, Agard gets caught on the ball. Kulusevski's played in. He has to take the shot on with his right foot early or slide it across the goal into the run of Harry Kane. He does neither of those. And he just wastes time and end up rolling it to Richarlison, whose shot was so weak, straight into the hands of Fabianski. What an opportunity for Spurs, and they don't take it.
Richarlison's wait for his first Premier League goal for the club goes on. And Kulusevski was brilliant, wasn't he, last season in the run-in when they went from this same points total at this same stage of the season to make the top four. He's not quite been in that sort of form of late.
He's had a couple of injuries this season, and I'm not sure he's quite fully up to speed yet.
Certainly proved the ability that he does have when he joined the club last year. And they'll hope to inspire that sort of form again. Just take the ball away from Declan Rice. It's deflected into the path of Harry Kane, and it's well wide from Kane. Dissected almost the far post in the corner flag before the ball eventually went out of play. Just had a glimpse of goal though.
Yeah, Kulusevski does well. Steals the ball off of Declan Rice. plays it into the path of Kane, little deflection off of Aged, and it's just spinning around, and Harry Kane tries to hit it early, and just gets it off the wrong part of his foot completely, and it's a long way wide.
Looking for goal number 20 of his season in all competitions. 17 of them have come in the Premier League for Harry Kane. Scored the only goal in the last home game, the record-breaking goal against Manchester City, which was his 200th in the Premier League, but 201 eluding him on that occasion. But Spurs will take heart from the opportunity, I guess, albeit it came from the defensive mistake. There's been one or two of those from West Ham since the restart already, after being so strong before the break. They're now looking for a free kick. They will get a free kick of their own at the other end of the field, with Jared Bowen going down. It's a painful one for him, just above the right knee. I think it was Longley with whom he made contact there. Yeah. Bowen is West Ham's top scorer. He's only got 4 in the Premier League. Yeah. He's got 8 in all competitions, but that tells something of the story, doesn't it?
They're really struggling to create chances and score goals, aren't they, at the moment? You know, and you look at their bench, actually. It's Skamaka, they've got Ings, they've got Benrahma, they've got Lanzini. You know, some real attacking flair on the bench.
They're not short of options, certainly in that part of the pitch, as Downs attempts to provide the cross, which is blocked behind by Højbjerg. It will go for the corner, and West Ham will sense their opportunity here. Maybe they hope that set pieces could be a part of the story. They've been so strong from them defensively this season. In fact, they're the only team yet to concede from a corner kick in the Premier League, but can they find something of their own up the other end? Here it comes from Bowen. It's flicked on and over. They're going to claim another corner. They will get another corner.
Yeah, it's Romero at the front post, got his head to it, but could only help it behind again for a second West Ham corner.
Spurs have been pretty solid in these situations this season. They've only let in 4 from set pieces, only conceded 2 headers. The only team to let in less, West Ham United, actually, which would suggest maybe that a goal is unlikely to come from this position. But Jared Bowen does have another opportunity to try and change that. Almost 6 minutes into this second half. Very congested penalty area, awaiting the near post delivery. It's Romero who rose and emphatically diverts it out of play on that far side for the throw. Almost level still, though, with the edge of the penalty area. And Sofal has gone to grab the ball and looks like he might launch this long. Does have the option of playing it into the feet of Flynn Downs, but instead he does get really decent distance on that. Well, O'Connor was rising in the penalty area. It didn't quite break for the Hammers. Skip brings it clear. Here's Kulusevski to look to launch the counter-attack. Well-weighted ball. In fact, it's just put a bit too much on it for Oliver Skip because of the starting position of Fabianski, who'd read the danger there. And the goalkeeper came out of his area to make sure he got to it first.
Yeah, that's the first time, really, that Spurs have had the opportunity to counter-attack. You can see how many bodies they got forward. Just again, the pass wasn't quite right to find the attacker, as it was. Oliver Skip was the first man forward.
We've had a strong surge from midfield. Hansi looking for his first goal of the season. Wasn't able to get on the end of that, but Spurs asking a few more questions now. There's Højbjerg, Harry Kane battling for it against Sofal, who then went down. The referee's content to let it continue. West Ham do still have the ball anyway with Ogbonna. Plays it forward for Bowen, brings it under control just inside his own half, works it wide left for Mikel Antonio. He's going to reach it ahead of Dyer and advances here up to the edge of the penalty area. Support from Emerson. Antonio delivers the cross himself. Cleared away before it could reach Bowen, but only as far as Declan Rice. Antonio taking over and taking on Dyer again. Edge of the box. Whips his left boot around it. A bit too much on it, and there's a real chase on for Sofal on that far side to keep it in place. Successful in doing so, and he now delivers the cross, which is headed away by Højbjerg. Back from whence it came, really, for Sofal to scrap for it against Davis, and it's taken away from him by Richarlison, who all of a sudden turns defence into attack for Spurs and plays the pass into space on their right-hand side for Dejan Kulusevski, and he's up now almost level with the edge of the penalty area. Kulusevski on the left foot, too much on it for Kane, who was the far post target there nearly, but not quite for Spurs.
Yeah, it's a better game now, isn't it? West Ham attacking one end, Spurs winning it back and breaking, and getting bodies forward at the other end of the pitch. Kulusevski cutting inside on that left foot, looking to bend the cross towards Harry Kane's run at the far post, but just a little too much on it. But better from both teams, really.
A bit more urgency, a bit more attacking intensity, a bit more threat about both sides in the first 7.5 minutes of the second half on Premier League Live. It's still Spurs 0, West Ham 0. West Ham still to have an attempt on target in the game, but maybe growing in belief that there could be something in this for them in front of goal. Spurs clear it long. It's met by Thilo Kehrer, who cushions down the header for Sofal. Mikel Antonio. Wider on that far side is Downs, who will play the ball back infield. Bit of space for Declan Rice to take the touch and then sweeps it out to the West Ham left, near side as we look at it, with Emerson drifting back infield. Declan Rice again. Played every minute of West Ham's last 13 games against Spurs, dating back nearly 5 years now. He's back on the ball again here. Jared Bowen to Emerson, who was trying to play it round the corner and look to return that into the path of Bowen. Emerson Royale's presence denied him the opportunity. Spurs subs going through their warm-ups. Notably, Son is sprinting down the touchline right now. It might not be too long before he is into the action. Surely only a matter of time. Last season's top scorer, Golden Boot winner in the Premier League, but just the 4 goals all season for him in the top flight this term for Tottenham, who have it here with Romero. Didn't have a lot of room in which to work as he's closed down by Jared Bowen. Big effort at the moment from West Ham.
I think West Ham feel that the game is there for them to potentially win, and Spurs do as well. And Spurs' story of Spurs' season really has been their second half performances have been so much better than their first half ones, and they've come out the start of this second half and a completely different team.
What Spurs haven't had yet is a draw at home all season. They are the only team to which that is applicable in the Premier League this season. They haven't actually drawn any of the last 21 here in the Premier League, and only one of the last 40. I don't know if I should tempt fate with this particular statistic, but none of the last 103 have finished 0-0. And this game is opening up, and here comes Spurs now. Emerson Royale is the furthest forward and finds the corner with the finish really coolly. Ben Davies, who played it into his path. Emerson Royale strokes that right-footed across the goalkeeper and in, just passed it into the corner. And just like that, Spurs breaking, the wing-backs combining, and they lead West Ham by 1-0.
Yeah, well, it's come from nothing, really. I mean, David Moyes will be really disappointed at how this goal comes about. The fact that Spurs' 2 wing-backs are the 2 highest players up the pitch suggests that there's been a real change of, the way that Spurs are going to play in this second half, because both of those wing-backs didn't get forward very much in the first half at all. But this pass here from Højbjerg completely splits open the West Ham defence. Ogbonna and Agard are just completely split open. Ben Davies beats Sofal to the ball, slides it across into the path of Emerson Royale, who's in Harry Kane's position in the centre forward role. And he doesn't think about it, he just keeps his head down, passes it simply into the bottom left-hand corner of the goal, past Lucas Fabianski. And Spurs take the lead, the most unlikely of goal scorers and the player to give the assist, but Spurs won't mind that at all.
50th Premier League appearance for Emerson Royale today, and he scores his second goal of the season, and only the third that he's ever scored in this division, and what an important one it might prove to be. Heading towards the hour mark, 57 on the clock, Spurs in front, but Jared Bowen is in behind and almost forces the equalising goal straight away. He would have done, but for Fraser Forster getting down to his right to make the save.
It's a good save from Forster. Bowen surprised me with his pace. A little touch on from Antonio, and Bowen gives Romero 3 or 4 yards and beats him to it, fires the shot in low and hard with his left foot. And it's a good save from Fraser Forster. I think if he had been in the corner, it would have scored, though.
Declan Rice trying to dink it in from the corner of the penalty areas. West Ham look to keep the pressure on here. Different game now, all right. Bit of a slow burner, this one, but we have a game on right now. That effort from Bowen was West Ham's first on target of the game, and Fraser Forster was equal to it. But Spurs now have a lead to defend, or perhaps to try and extend as they advance down the left-hand side. Ben Davies again, Downs is with him. Davies has overhit the cross, and is the first to acknowledge that as it flies over everybody and out of play on this near side. But Spurs have something to work with now.
It's just amazing how different Spurs are in the second half of pretty much every game I've seen this season. Now, how much higher the 2 wing-backs get, how much more influence Harry Kane has, how much more they get bodies forward. It's just silly how they don't do that for the whole game.
It is curious, and
Yeah.
it's a recurring theme, isn't it? Now it's no longer just a coincidence. Have they got enough today to get the win and to move back into the top four? One goal was enough against Manchester City in the last home game. Here's Eric Dyer on the halfway line. He will just square it to his right to the goal scorer, Emerson Royale. Wider right is Kulusevski. Corner of the box, cutting infield again onto that left foot away from Emerson, going for goal. Parried away by Fabianski, got both hands to it. Was in the right place to do that, but much more menace about both teams now.
Yeah, definitely. Kulusevski, obviously a left footer playing on the right hand side, cuts inside in his left foot, looking to bend it in the far corner. Comfortable save for Fabianski, but didn't hold it, parried it away. West Ham now looking to build again from the back.
Again, despite their defensive discipline, there is no clean sheet for West Ham. Only Southampton, the bottom club, have kept fewer in the Premier League this season. And now they have to try and chase this through the Hammers. So you have it with Ogbonna, the heart of their back three. To his right is Tilo Kehrer. Did finish 1-1 when these sides met in East London. The last couple of days of August, that one. Back it goes from Jared Bowen to Ogbonna again. He will help it all the way back to Fabianski, whose options were a little restricted by the presence of Richarlison. He got decent distance on the clearance though. Skip has it back on halfway as we reach the hour on Premier League Live. Spurs 1, West Ham 0. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg is the last line of defence, as it turned out, when he picked up possession just in front of his own penalty area. And now Longley will launch it long, a bit too long for Harry Kane. Fabianski again has come outside of his penalty area. There's probably more height than there was distance on his clearance, which was a little awkward when it came down for Romero. Jared Bowen picks up the pieces only briefly before Højbjerg's intervention. And now skip to Davies and back to Højbjerg again. The Spurs look to impose their control over the game. Romero's dispossessed by Mikel Antonio inside the centre circle, and then Antonio caught Harry Kane. The referee was well positioned, had a long look at that. He's called Mikel Antonio across to him and is having a lengthy word with him. I think that might be the extent of his involvement this time.
I think he's unfortunate there, Mikel Antonio. I think he slips. I think he wins the ball initially and then slips into Harry Kane. It's very unfortunate to pick up a yellow card.
Yeah, there is a yellow brandished at the end of the lecture.
He doesn't touch Harry Kane at all. Everything he touches is the ball. If you see, it's the ball. There's no studs at all that touch Harry Kane.
No,
it's a perfect challenge.
We've just seen it again, and he has a.
It's ridiculous. It's silly.
A look of bemusement on his face, and understandably so, maybe, Mikel Antonio. But he has received the yellow card at the end of all of that. And Spurs back on the ball just inside their own half, leading West Ham by a goal to 0. Scored by Emerson Royale, who was man of the match, I think, against Manchester City, wasn't he, in the last home game?
He was really, really good and so positive going forward. And it's almost like Spurs have just released the two wing-backs, released everyone really to go and express themselves and play with more energy. And that's what's making them look a better team.
Certainly seems to have responded to the deadline day arrival of Pedro Porro as Emerson Royale. I did start in his place, actually, at Leicester last week as Kulusevski closing on the keeper here. Fabianski was able to get it away and reached halfway with that clearance before then taking a bit of a clattering from Kulusevski. Who's limping away from the scene, Lucas Fabianski. He knew what was coming, I think. They just couldn't get out of the way.
It just takes a little bit longer. Kulusevski comes across, nothing in it at all. Doesn't even make a challenge, really, Kulusevski.
West Ham back on the ball on the edge of their own penalty area. Needing to find something. Their game plan might have to change a little now. The mindset altered somewhat. Maybe not immediately, but between now and the conclusion, they will have to start taking a few chances. Perhaps they advance here with Emerson, but Emerson Royale back doing the defensive day job, stuck to his task to time the challenge well and prevent a way in behind him.
It's a good battle down that side of the pitch, isn't it?
Emerson Royale's goal separating the sides. His last one came in the defeat at Manchester City last month. scoring for just the third time in the Premier League in total today, as the West Ham corner comes in and is headed back into a dangerous area by Souček. Too many Spurs shirts in the way, really, and Ben Davies is the one that's able to complete the clearance, left-footed to the halfway line. Just underlining the threat that they pose in those sort of situations. Stellini making the point before the game at how physically strong, big this West Ham team are, and set pieces are likely to be the occasions where they can try and make that count, but Spurs standing up to it so far.
Yeah, they didn't win the first header, did they? But Eric Dyer was in the right place to make sure that they clear the danger.
64 minutes on the clock. Emerson Royale's goal, the difference. And Spurs hoping to make it back-to-back home wins after such a tough time that they've had here more recently. This time they've got themselves in front. 18 times this season they've conceded first in the Premier League. They've lost 2 of 11 when scoring first.
Yeah, well, the opposite of that is obviously West Ham have conceded first in 16 games now this season. Only Southampton have conceded more in 17. I mean, that's a really bad record. It's so hard to win games conceding that first goal.
And they stretch their unbeaten run to 4 in the Premier League. It would be a third straight draw if they could salvage something here. And I think they take that at this juncture, wouldn't they? David Moyes has spoken about needing to turn those draws into wins, but this would be a point picked up if they can do so. It's a big if right now, though. They've got to find that attacking threat, got to find a way through this Spurs defence, who shut out the champions last time here. Never quite know what you're going to get really from Spurs at the moment, given the manner of the loss at Leicester in between. Romero to Harry Kane. Kane to Emerson Royale. They've worked it wider to the right-hand side for Dejan Kulusevski. Emerson is with him. And now Emerson Royale taking over for Spurs. Kulusevski again will just prod it back down the line into the path of Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Those two combine again. Højbjerg infield to Oliver Skipp. The two that have tried to provide Spurs with a bit of a platform in the midfield. Romero as well advanced. Harry Kane taking the pass from him, taking on Ogbonna. They got away, and as far as Højbjerg keeps on coming back at West Ham just at the moment. Emerson Royale's got space to assess his options, and he will swing in the cross cut out by Thomas Souček, who was stretching to reach that. He was alert to the danger. Bowen coming under pressure. So was Declan Rice, who just released the ball before he was caught by Emerson Royale. It will be a West Ham free kick. There's a few words for Rice, but I think it's fairly good-natured, judging by the smile on each of their faces.
Absolutely. I think Emerson Royale didn't feel that there was a lot of contact there.
I think we're going to see changes, actually, as we head towards the midway point of the second half, and Son is going to be summoned for Spurs. No surprise in that, but he does come into a slightly more promising situation now, given that his team have got themselves on top and in front. And we're about to find out who he's going to come on for here. There's Kavanagh with the board. And maybe no huge surprise that it will be Richarlison. It's a reversal of a change that was made to the starting 11 for today's game. Richarlison has probably operated really on the periphery of the game. He's had 1 or 2 half chances, but still his wait for a first Premier League goal for Spurs goes on.
Yeah, he hasn't really affected the game that much, has he? He has that 1 half chance really in the first half, but you bring on a player of Son's quality as West Ham's defenders start to tire. You think there might be spaces for him to exploit.
Surely part of the thinking from Spurs here. 97 career Premier League goals he's got for this season, and 3 of those came in his 1 previous appearance off the bench against Leicester City earlier in the season. It's not been anything like in the same sort of scoring form as he was last year. Slightly different role maybe. Slightly different role for Harry Kane as well, playing a part in that. But let's see what difference Son can make in the closing quarter of the contest. Forward by Romero to Harry Kane, but he's dispossessed inside the centre circle by his England colleague Declan Rice. Emerson takes over, shifts it infield. Little touch for Thomas Souček on the halfway line. The onus, though, really is on West Ham now to try and find this threat in front of goal. Only lost 1 of the 5 Premier League matches they've played since the turn of the year. And there's frustration for them here as the referee's whistle goes. And again, Mikel Antonio has a little bit to say to the referee, and having just got that yellow card, he is pretty quick to walk away from the scene. The referee now has both Kane and Dyer in consultation with him before Antonio is summoned to join them again.
I think this one is more of a yellow card than the first one was. I think had he not got a yellow card, he certainly would have received one for that. He dives in, he catches the back of Pierre-Emile Højbjerg's Achilles. Fortunate, I don't think he'll get away with another one.
I think that has to go down as a final warning, doesn't it, for him? I think you're absolutely right. It was more of a yellow card offence than the first. That is for sure. Here's Kulusevski for Son. First involvement, finding Emerson Royale. Linking with Kulusevski again. Declan Rice with him. As they battle for it on the byline. Instead, he's cut it back on the edge of the penalty area for Skip. Shifting it to his left. This is Son. West Ham have pretty much everybody in the way. Longley will take on the shot. Took a big swing at the left boot at that. And it balloons up into the gloves of Fabianski, who came and made it his and releases it long towards Antonio. Coolly dealt with by Eric Dyer. He just got there first ahead of Antonio and will get the ball back from Højbjerg. Leaves it for Romero instead for Spurs, just in front of their own penalty area. Skip in space ahead of him in the central part of the pitch. And now Emerson Royale on halfway, being watched by Declan Rice. Kulusevski the option wide, and the option that he's located here. Kulusevski again drifting in from the touchline. This is Son to Skip. And now again West Ham with everybody back, really bar Mikel Antonio behind the ball as we head into the last 20 minutes of the 90 on Premier League Live. Spurs 1, West Ham 0. Emerson Royale's goal. 56 minutes into the match, the difference. Here's Son taking the pass, finding Kulusevski, edge of the penalty area. Kulusevski on the left foot, it's blocked by Agar. Only partially cleared though. Another effort goalwards was struck by Højbjerg. It was blocked very shortly after it left the left boot of the Dane. West Ham still had the defence well manned at that stage, so Højbjerg has to scamper after it to retrieve possession for Spurs, and he will take the return pass from Longley this time. Højbjerg seeing plenty of it.
No real urgency from West Ham to get after the ball. They're still sitting back, defending deep. You have to think now, 20 minutes to go, they need to get a goal to get back into this game.
We haven't seen them flip the switch yet, have we, in that respect, if indeed they are able to do that.
Well, we saw earlier, we mentioned earlier, they've got some real attacking options on the bench. Looks like they're going to go to them now.
Yeah, double change right on cue. Danny Ings is coming on. He's been restricted to a role as a substitute so far. He's been brought on in all 4 games since they signed him, just before the deadline. From Aston Villa, he's going to take the place of Mikel Antonio. And it looks like Flynn Downs coming off as well to get Ben Rama on. So that's a reversal of one of the 2 changes that David Moyes made from the starting 11 against Chelsea last weekend. Ben Rama into the action. No surprise that he has opted to mix it up at this point.
No surprise he's brought these players on as Spurs attack. Son
is in. Kane has found him. Son scores! Just like that. 2-0 Spurs. Son has stepped off the bench to get his goal, combining with Kane. And that might just wrap up the win against West Ham here. It's an awful long way back for the visitors. He's only been on a few minutes as Heung-min Son. And he scored his 5th goal of the Premier League season. 4 of them now have come in his 2 substitute appearances. And he took it smartly. Fabianski was left exposed. It's Spurs 2, West Ham 0.
It's that telepathy between Kane and Son. Just a hopeful ball forward. Harry Kane used his body brilliantly to hold off the challenge of Ogbonna and then slips the ball in behind. Absolutely perfect pass from Harry Kane in between 2 defenders. There was so little space to play that into. And then Son's first touch is absolutely perfect. Takes it out in front of him, opens his body up. Fabianski dives to his right. Son just slots it to his left-hand side into the bottom corner. And that should be game, set and match for Spurs.
72 on the clock. 2-0 Spurs. Son celebrates. He hasn't had too much to celebrate really over the course of this campaign, which by the lofty standards he set last year has been a disappointment. But we know exactly what he can do, and he's offered further evidence of it right there. And Spurs now on the brink of a return to the top 4 tonight. Just as West Ham made that double attacking change, their task is all the tougher, but they will get the free kick here as they attempt to apply the instant pressure in search of a route back into the game. Once more, not for the first time today, it's Jarrod Bowen on the receiving end.
Yeah, Jarrod Bowen, I think, is quite clever here. I think he makes a lot of this challenge from long late. Spurs players shaking their heads, don't think this is a foul. Ball chested into him by Soucek. It's not a foul. I mean, he just throws himself to the floor here, Bowen. But wins a free kick in a really dangerous position.
Well, Son scored twice for Spurs in the FA Cup win at Preston in January. He scored his first goal in the Premier League since the victory at Crystal Palace on the 4th of January. The only time he started actually and scored this season in this division. But he's come on as a sub, and has he had the decisive say? West Ham will hope not, and if they can profit from this free kick, which we'll see in a moment, then it could still be a different story. It could still be a nervy finish after all, but you really do feel that they have to make this count. Kulusevski is acting as the draft excluder behind the Spurs wall. They've got a couple of players standing over the set piece. Emerson might fancy it. Ben Rama's just come on as well, and he is also in the vicinity, standing to the left of the ball. As the referee organises that wall, it's going to be Ben Rama to strike it. He caught it pretty sweetly, but it was always just off target. Not far away, but in the context of the situation that West Ham find themselves in, it was never close enough.
Yeah, he tried to go over the wall, didn't he? Go over the top of Harry Kane and Eric Dyer, and just couldn't get it back down again. He was only just outside the 18-yard box where the free kick was. Very difficult to get it up and down from there. Almost better off trying to hit it through the wall or around the wall there.
Yeah, it would have taken something very special. And Ben Rama just unable to provide it. We go into the closing quarter of an hour of the 90 minutes on Premier League Live. Spurs 2, West Ham 0. Manchester United 3-0 winners earlier in the day against Leicester City. Spurs set to join Manchester United in the top four, the Champions League positions as it stands, up above Newcastle. If they can see the job through here, they'll certainly back themselves to do that. They would have played a match more. It's still a vital victory in a London derby if they can hold on. West Ham are pressing much higher up the field now, but it's cleared away by Longley despite the attentions of Jarrod Bowen. And it's with Emerson in a more central role. Ben Rama takes over, but he's facing his own goal as he picks up possession and has to return to the halfway line to move forwards again. Thomas Soucek will shift it out to his right-hand side to his good friend Vladimir Sofal. He's the one that delivers the cross, swings it in right-footed. Spurs clear it away, and Kulusevski will bring it clear on the counter now. Space to search into down the Tottenham right. He just holds it up whilst he waits for support to arrive in field, where he's picked the pass for Oliver Skipp in space. Skipp invited to advance. He's into the penalty area. Kehrer got a foot in. Ben Davies will flash one only into the side netting. Didn't quite have the angle from there. It was ambitious to take it on, and he was never really convincing in doing so.
Absolutely not. Good break. Oliver Skipp, he's looking really to find a pass to someone. Breaks into the penalty area. Falls kindly for Ben Davies. Should be just looking to just dink it up and let Harry Kane go and attack something, but tries to strike it in at the near post. Impossible angle. That might be his last. It's actually Longley going to come off. Just wondered if it might be Ben Davies, but Perisic's going to come on for Longley.
Yeah, it will mean a change of role really for Davies when he'll slot back into the back three, you would have thought, and Perisic will take up station on the left-hand side, continuing his record of being the only Spurs player, along with Harry Kane, to feature in every Premier League match that they've played this season. 8th time off the bench. He has started the other 16. And West Ham are going to make 2 further changes of their own by the looks of things very shortly. They're going to get Pablo Fornals into the action. He's been a regular on the bench of late, seems to have lost his starting spot under David Moyes in the last couple of months. Those changes will wait for the time being, though. Play back underway with Fabianski thumping it forward. Dyer will return it with a huge clearance. Ogbonna reaching it ahead of Kane. Fjordberg couldn't quite control the bouncing ball. Neither really could Ben Rama on halfway. It was kept in play by Sofal, who's asking Ben Rama to chase it down that right-hand side. He will settle for the throw, Vladimir Sofal, as he looks for some movement amongst those in claret and blue just in front of him. Back they go to Angelo Ogbonna inside their own half of the field, and into the last dozen minutes of the 90 we go at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Premier League Live. Bounces off Bowen, picks up the pieces as he's forced away from goal by Perisic, who's sticking to his task here. And Bowen has got away from Perisic and away from Fjordbjerg, and Benrahma can't quite find the target. Didn't have long to size up the shot, and it whistled just wide as he struck it right-footed. Gareth Bowen had done really well. He looked to be second favourite, with both Perisic and Fjordbjerg guarding his route into the penalty area. But by the time he played the pass into the feet of Benrahma, the shot really from there wasn't quite on.
Yeah, it was brilliant persistence from Bowen, wasn't it, to beat two players, but cuts it back to Benrahma, and he gets his angles all wrong. Had to try and open up onto his left foot to open the goal up. Just like the negativity for me, even of these substitutions here of David Moyes, I think is really poor. They're desperate. They must get two strikers on, surely, a 2-0 down. He's bringing Fornals on, he's bringing a defender on.
Yeah, Ben Johnson's going to come on as well. They have Scamacca on the bench, albeit only just on his way back from injury. Lanzini's amongst the substitutes as well. He's got that remarkable 94th minute equaliser, didn't he, in a 3-3 against Spurs 3 years ago now. Instead it's Son to Kulusevski. Spurs look to put this one completely out of sight, really. Kulusevski cutting it back from the byline, cut out when the cross came by Angelo Ogbonna at the expense of the corner.
Kulusevski, for the first time in the game, actually, every single time he's had it before, has cut inside onto his favoured left foot. This time decides to go down the line on his right foot, gets to the byline, tries to hit it across the box. Good positioning from Angelo Ogbonna to block the cross.
Yeah, dealt with it decisively. Kulusevski went careering into the advertising hoarding, actually just behind the goal. Couldn't quite put the brakes on in time, but is okay. We go to the last 10 minutes of the 90. Perisic is going to take this corner for Spurs. They try and make it 3-0 and wrap up the 3 points, really. Perisic with the ball in. It's headed out by Ogbonna. Benrahma beaten to it by Skip. He just waited for the ball to come down, did Said Benrahma, and he wasn't really afforded that luxury. Here is Perisic. Dyer's ball was just behind Kulusevski. Benrahma takes it off him. Finds himself outnumbered 3-1, but did well to keep hold of it for West Ham. Finds Declan Rice to Emerson, who in turn is quickly closed down by Dejan Kulusevski. And Spurs just need to keep West Ham really at arm's length, and the points are theirs. Here comes the double change. Been in the offing a little while. Angelo Ogbonna is going to come off, so it will probably mean a change of shape. Ben Johnson can play there, but more of a fullback really by trade. He's immediately grabbed hold of the ball, waiting to take the throw, and Fornals is going to come on as well.
Yeah, I think we go to a back four. West Ham. He's come on for Emerson. Fornals looks like a 4-3-3.
Yep.
Ben Johnson's going to play left back. Soufal will play right back.
Ben Johnson, cousin of a great Spurs favourite, of course, in Ledley King. Nephew of Paul Parker, who was on commentary duty for the early game today. He's slotted straight into the side, Ben Johnson, for the last 9 minutes plus added time. West Ham try and improbably really find a way back from here. They are going to get a free kick inside the Spurs half of the field, but they need something to happen, and soon.
They do, yep. And the worrying thing for West Ham is they haven't scored from a cross all season. So your conventional route of getting the ball wide and putting balls into the box doesn't work for them.
That is another astonishing statistic, isn't it? Only scored one headed goal all season, none from crosses. The only team in the Premier League yet to do that. You wouldn't necessarily associate that stat with a team like this. It's a situation in which they were so threatening. The last couple of seasons, they scored 30 goals from those positions.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an amazing drop-off, isn't it?
And try and keep the danger alive here with Benrahma on their left-hand side. Skip is with him, teases it infield to Danny Ings. Now Declan Rice. No time on the ball, really, for anybody in claret and blue. Spurs wanted the free kick, not forthcoming. Pablo Fornals has the ball instead for West Ham. Soufal to his right. Still inside the Spurs half, where pretty much everybody is stationed now. All those in white are back behind the ball, and they're going to force Soufal all the way back to Fabianski. That draws a sheer of appreciation from the home fans, just highlighting the difficulties that the Hammers find themselves in right now. Here's Johnson out to Soufal on that right-hand side. Has the ball back again. Has had his injury issues, Ben Johnson, over the last few seasons, or might have had much more game time than he's managed. But it is his 20th appearance in all competitions this season already. West Ham winning all of their group games in the UEFA Europa Conference League to go straight through to the round of 16 in that competition in March, skipping the knockout rounds that are ongoing at the moment as Fornals teases that one forward towards Jared Bowen. Son back helping out his defence, picking it up just in front of his own penalty area, facing his own goal initially. Didn't take long to change that, and now he charges forward. He covered good ground when driving into West Ham territory, and there was a painful little blow, I think, from Declan Rice for his troubles at the end of all of that.
That's a strong, really good run from Heung-min Son, and then just ran into Declan Rice, so it was a really strong challenge from him.
And it is Son's goal that has afforded Spurs that little bit of breathing space, adding to the earlier effort from Emerson Royal in the second half, and seemingly taking the game away from West Ham. I'm sure the team still being picked by Antonio Conte, being marshalled on the touchline by Christian Stellini today, but the decision to start with Son as a sub has once again paid off. And that combination with Kane, which was so familiar last season, and indeed, of course, in recent years, back in evidence today, and Spurs will be thankful for that. That was close for West Ham as the ball was aimed in towards Danny Ings. He just couldn't quite bring it under control on the edge of the penalty area.
It's a good through ball, wasn't it? I think from Fornals, just played it inside, but the ball just bounced up a little too high for Danny Ings to control.
Yet to get him in the game. Does have 6 goals against Spurs down the years, 5 of those in the Premier League and 13 previous meetings with them. Proven Premier League goal scorer, brought in to try and help transform West Ham's season. As yet, he's not really been given that chance. Not yet started a game in the top flight since arriving from Villa. £15 million they paid last month to bring him in just before the deadline. It did look like some decent business, really. If he can stay fit, that's the big if with Danny Ings.
Exactly
isn't it?
that. I think he's a really good striker. It's just how many games can you get out of him in a season?
Lucas Moura and Pat Sarr being readied shortly for Spurs. Further substitutions, it would seem, are imminent. And they're doing a decent job just at the moment. Spurs have taken the sting out of this. They're ticking the clock down inside the last 5 minutes of the 90 now, leading West Ham by 2-0 on Premier League Live. So far with the throw for the Hammers down the right-hand side. Reaches halfway with it. Eric Dyer got his head to it first, though. Bowen picking up the pieces. Was back inside his own half of the field and squaring it to his left for Ben Johnson, who plays it forward first time into the path of Syed Ben Rama. Ben Rama was looking for Fornals down the middle. Instead, it was cut out by Romero, and not only has he thwarted the attack, he's set off on a search trying to spark one of his own, only to be dispossessed in midfield, and now has to hurry back again because Declan Rice has taken it away from him and played the pass wide left for Ben Rama for West Ham. Dancing feet tricks his way into the penalty area, but it was more style than substance, really, from Ben Rama, and Emerson Royal came careering across, thunders into the challenge, wins it cleanly and brings the ball clear. And he then to overrun it, runs into Declan Rice. Fornals forward for Danny Ings inside the area. Right-footed shot is blocked by Dyer, who was just turning away from him but managed to get his body in the way. Højbjerg then takes a tumble under pressure from Fornals. The referees let that go. Spurs look long for Harry Kane, and he's going to reach it just ahead of Tilo Kehrer. Corner of the penalty area. Spurs left. Crossfield ball. Infield was looking for Kulusevski. Cut out by Souček, but he couldn't make it stick. So Kulusevski is able to get on the end of the loose ball, wins back possession. Emerson Royal has it.
Christian Romero still down, I think. He may well have just got up. Yeah, he's just got up now.
They thought about putting the ball out of play, didn't they? Until the signal came from Romero that he's okay to continue. Still feeling it. He's down on his haunches again. But his team are back on the ball and back controlling things in these last few minutes, which they've done to an extent, really, throughout the game. Davis taking the pass from Dyer, working it wider to Perisic on that left-hand side, getting it back from Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Oliver Skip. A lot of the play going through him just at the moment. Now Romero shimmies clear of Ben Rama, neatly done. And again, he advances from centre-back and he works it wider for Emerson Royal. Midway inside the West Ham half now. Kulusevski with back to goal. It's taken away from him. And Declan Rice brings it clear. Pablo Fornals was trying to spread it out to the right-hand side. He was looking for Jared Bowen. It was cut out by Perisic, only as far as Soufal. And now Bowen. Bowen drifting forward, in from the right-hand side into a more central position. 2 minutes of the 90 to play. 2-0 Spurs. Here's Declan Rice. West Ham not giving it up yet, though. They're still coming forward in search of something. Ben Rama just held up by Emerson Royal on the edge of the penalty area. Back he goes infield to Declan Rice, and he's overhit it over the head of Bowen. didn't reach Sofal, who'd offered himself as an option on the far side of the box as well. Harmlessly behind, and to an extent it sums up the story for West Ham.
Yeah, they're just not good enough. They don't create chances. And when you look at, we talk about Spurs, how far they off of being a team that's going to challenge for the title. Which of these West Ham players gets in Spurs' team? Declan Rice, for me, is the only one who would get into Spurs' team. And that says a lot on how bad this West Ham team really is. And they're in real trouble with it. They could easily go down this season.
Well, they're going to remain in the relegation zone after this. Spurs making a double change. Kulusevski and Skip coming off. Papsar and Lucas Moura are their replacements. They won't have long to make a difference today. Just ticking the clock down further. But these two teams were battling almost as equals for much of last season.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now find themselves at opposite ends of the Premier League table. We're in the last minute of the 90. And these changes more about really sharing out the appearances somewhat, just helping Spurs over the line. West Ham with just the one attempt on target in the entirety of the game. Only 6 total attempts in the 90 minutes now.
They really haven't offered a threat attacking-wise. David Moyes came here to try and frustrate. As soon as they went a goal behind, you're wondering how they're going to get back in the game. The substitutions have made no impact whatsoever. And he's gone and he's playing Danny Ings up front by himself, and they're losing the game 2-0. It doesn't make any sense. You have to try and get something from the game.
Well, we wondered, as you say, how they would get back in it. It would appear the answer is they're not going to. There's 4 added minutes now separating Spurs from the victory. And from West Ham to extending their winless away run in the Premier League to 10 matches now. This is Vladimir Sofal working it wider to the right-hand side. Jared Bowen taking on a combination of Davis and Højbjerg. And then Perisic stepped across and caught him, I think. Just in from the byline, Bowen has stayed down and the free kick given.
It's a poorly mistimed challenge from Perisic. Davis showed him down the line into the run of Perisic, but Perisic completely mistimes this challenge. Steps over the ball and into Jared Bowen's ankle.
Oh yeah, we're just seeing a replay again on our monitor. That's a painful one for Bowen. Missed the ball completely, as you say. And it's been a painful afternoon for West Ham, full stop really, today. It's not a fixture that they've got the best of records in, despite becoming the first away team to win at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium shortly after it opened. They've actually won only 2 of their last 20 Premier League meetings at Spurs since the end of 1999. That sequence is not going to improve today. They will have a free kick here. Bowen is still feeling the effects of the challenge.
He's in a lot of pain. He's been one of West Ham's best players. Along probably him and Declan Rice have both done pretty well. He's always been positive, Bowen.
He's not going to be able to take the free kick. It's in by Fornals instead, just over the head of Sofal. And Sarr diverts the danger behind. Bowen hobbling away, not moving at all freely.
Well, David Moyes will be worried about that because he's going to be a big part of them staying up if they are going to do it.
They'll certainly need him, won't they? As is the case for Declan Rice, who takes the corner kick, headed away by Perisic. Bowen does get on the end of it, but he only really hobbled across to be able to do so. And then there's another late challenge.
That's
on
Perisic as well.
Far touchline by Perisic.
You could argue that he could have a red card here. The tackle on Bowen for me is a yellow card offence. And he gets away with that one, and then this one comes in late again, studs up into the foot. That's another yellow. He's just got a yellow card for that one, but he should be off the pitch.
Yeah, yellow is out. It was Sofal who he caught this time. Not dissimilar challenge, really. And the yellow card, I think, is the least that he merited. And it has caused tempers to boil over a little bit. Højbjerg's got plenty to say to the referee right now, and players from both sides are getting involved. And savoury scenes in stoppage time. And the referee wants a word with Declan Rice, I think, or is he just calling the captain to cross?
Declan Rice is the skipper. And, Declan Rice is right. He's saying Perisic should be off the pitch.
He's continuing that conversation with Højbjerg only until Michael Oliver steps in between the two of them and ushers Rice away. Clearly has been a frustrating afternoon for him and his team, but you can understand that particular frustration, I guess.
I think it must be frustrating for him just to be playing for West Ham and thinking where he could be, where he's going to be next season. He's
Yeah.
certainly not going to be at West Ham.
It's looking that way. I think with every passing week, it becomes more likely that this could well be his last season. A lot of uncertainty, I guess, at both of these clubs for next year. Spurs with a managerial position as well, with Antonio Conte out of contract, currently back in Italy for medical reasons. But he'll be cheered by this because his team are set to return to winning ways. We've played 3 of the 4 added minutes already. It might be extended a little bit more by the late aggravation that we've just witnessed. Throw taken quickly by West Ham. They will keep on coming here, but without too much conviction. Johnson's ball into the box, headed away by Emerson Royale. And Lucas Moura's got space to bring it clear now, and Spurs are streaming forward in support. This is Harry Kane, who takes the ball from Lucas Moura, just couldn't quite really dig it out from under his feet to create the space that he needed to help that on, because there were others in white well advanced as well. But Spurs are almost there. We're playing on now only at the referee's discretion. Indeed, right on cue goes the full-time whistle. Spurs back to winning ways. 2 second-half goals from Emerson Royale and from Son, the sub, earning the points and restoring Tottenham to a place in the top 4 in the table. West Ham remain in the relegation zone. It's finished. Spurs 2, West Ham 0. Here comes Spurs now. Emerson Royale is the furthest forward and finds the corner with the finish. Really coolly. Ben Davies, who played it into his path. Emerson Royale strokes that right footed across the goalkeeper and in. Just passed it into the corner. And just like that, Spurs breaking, the wing-backs combining, and they lead West Ham by 1-0.
But this pass here from Hotspur completely splits open the West Ham defence. Emerson Royale, who's in Harry Kane's position in the centre forward role. And he doesn't think about it, he just keeps his head down, passes it simply into the bottom left-hand corner of the goal, past Lucas Fabianski. And Spurs take the lead, the most unlikely of goal scorers and the player to give the assist, but Spurs won't mind that at all.
Son is in, Kane has found him, Son scores! Just like that, 2-0 Spurs. Son has stepped off the bench to get his goal, combining with Kane, and that might just wrap up the win against West Ham here. It's an awful long way back for the visitors. He's only been on a few minutes as Heung-min Son, and he scored his 5th goal of the Premier League season. 4 of them now have come in his 2 substitute appearances, and he took it smartly.
Fabianski dives to his right, Son just slots it to his left-hand side into the bottom corner. And that should be game, set and match for Spurs.
And indeed, it proved to be the case. There was to be no way back for West Ham, and Chris Perry, your old side, will feel that they were value for the victory.
They certainly were in the second half, yeah. They played at a completely different tempo. They created so many more chances. They were more positive, and West Ham couldn't live with them when they played at that tempo. And they've got that little bit of quality, haven't they? You know, to be able to bring on Son in place of Richarlison. You've got Harry Kane in the team. They've got some quality, and Spurs just need to find a way of producing a full 90-minute performance rather than just these 45 minutes here and there.
And worrying signs for West Ham, because at no stage really, once they went behind it, they looked like getting back in it, and they just didn't have enough of an attacking threat today.
They didn't. No, they lacked a real attacking threat. They're playing one up front. They went behind, and they're just really poor at the moment. You see there's a real lack of confidence. There's a real lack of goals in the team. And it's going to be a struggle to the end of the season.
They're in a battle, aren't they?
Certainly are, yeah. I mean, you look today and you wonder where goals are going to come from. And goals are the only thing that are going to win your games. You can be keep it as tight as you like, but you're going to need to pick up victories.
Yeah, West Ham remain in the relegation zone after this. Spurs up above Newcastle into the top 4. Chris Perry, thanks for your company today. Thanks to you around the world, wherever you've been listening to us. A vital win for Spurs in the London derby.